Yeah, so there's some recruitment methods, and just to kind of expand real fast on the recruiting methods and getting your name out there. Use all the platforms you can to get your name out there, but don't over rely on social media. That a lot of this is personal connections, like we've been saying. It's that the deep canvassing, making connections in your community, and your connections have connections, and it pulls in people kind of organically. You win when you have name recognition, basically. This is advice from the campaign manual for Bernie Sanders' campaign, actually, and that 89% of people have to recognize your name before you can really have a winning campaign. So you've got to make sure that your name is out there. Most folks, especially today, highly distrust government. We already kind of talked about that. So you want to make sure that you build trust and you make a good impression with them. And that includes making sure that your candidates are bright, energetic, fair-minded. That's kind of what voters are looking for. That they're listening, and that they're ready to take action. That they're not the boring, stuffy politicians in suits that they're used to, right? Aside from making contact with people in your community, you also probably want to make personal contact with the local journalists in your community. Find out what newspapers or newsletters exist in your community, and talk to those reporters, talk to those journalists, write letters to
the
them.
tech staffers, right? In a lot of smaller markets like mine,
Yeah.
When we send out a press release, when Chelsea Manning was released from prison, we had a celebratory rally at our old state capitol where Lincoln served, and we sent out our press releases and everything. And the journalist that showed up was the cameraman for the local TV station. There was no reporter. The cameraman was very much on our side, and he, asked us questions, did the interview, and I got to talk about imperialism on the news. Right? That might not have gotten past a reporter, but it got through to the working class cameraman. That same cameraman at another rally, we were having a minimum wage rally. This was in 2012 or 2011. We were having a minimum wage rally, and chance happened that it was 105 the day of the rally. As I'm sure you can guess what that did to attendance, right? So we had a relatively small rally, and the cameraman helped us. He showed us where he was going to put his camera, how we should stand, and it took a few dozen people and made us look like hundreds. Right? And it's because if minimum wage went up, he got a raise, because that's where he was. And, my local newspaper almost never sent a reporter. They send a photographer, and then the reporter calls you later, right? So a lot of times it's knowing the support people, and they're often way more working class and way more connected with our issues. So it's not just those journalists and editors, right? They're the ones with the control, but it's like everything. Connecting with the people that do the actual work, the grunt work, can have huge dividends. I've had more dividends from being good with cameramen than I ever had from being good with a journalist. So.
Well, there you go. So, but yeah, make connections with the news, more or less, right?
Yeah.
That can get you attention. Make sure that you have, attractive literature and signs that catch the eye and people notice it, but also it has to relate to their genuine issues. It has to relate to the things that they care about locally. So make sure you have a good message there. And lastly, those door-to-door conversations are important. Like we said, keep up the deep canvassing.
And make sure you're hitting bread and butter issues,
right?
Kitchen table issues. I have my state house rep is a Democrat who's actually a Republican. To the point that she opposed marijuana legalization and decriminalization. She opposed civil unions. She opposed gay marriage. She supported gay conversion therapy, like, and this is a supposed Democrat. But when I just got a mailer from her ahead of the primaries, nothing about economics, nothing about the environment, nothing about healthcare. And I can tell you from doing surveys for years, these are key issues. Nothing about infrastructure, right? Her number one issue on her literature that she's, paid money to mail to my house is that she wants to lower the age that kids can be alone at home, right? And so you get it and you read that and you just show that you are completely disconnected from the lives of real people. So you want to make sure that you're choosing your issues wisely, making those local connections wisely. Um, and I will say, as Greens, and this is a criticism of Green philosophy that has been in the past, and we need to focus a lot more on quality than quantity. It's easy to get wrapped up into someone needs to run and to run an unserious, unsuccessful campaign. We're far, just like that thing about meetings, right? One good meeting is better than a dozen ineffectual meetings, and the same goes for candidates. One good candidate can grow your party far more than 12 unserious candidates.
For sure.